Thank you for joining us this beautiful Saturday morning. Now, let's look at enforcing pollution laws. In recent weeks, we've seen the Lagos State Ministry of the Environment enforcing some laws, from shutting markets down to demolishing buildings, sealing up churches to shutting nightclubs and bars. The fact is, Lagos is polluted and is dirty. From the air we breathe to the noise in the environment, all these make people sick. Well, we would like to say good morning to the General Manager of the Lagos State Environmental Protection Agency, Dr. Babatunde Ajayi. Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for joining us this morning. Why this sudden, like they said in one movie that I watched, kitty kata about enforcing the pollution laws in the state?
Oh, well, so thank you for having me. There is a new mandate. There's a mandate that is very clear from the governor and championed by the Commissioner for the Environment, Tokunbo Wahab. And it is to restore sanity, to reset orderliness in Lagos. So Honorable Tokunbo Wahab has taken the charge to deliberately, across all spheres of the environment, restore sanity. Like you said earlier, there's pollution all over the place. The largest volume of complaints we get is from noise pollution. And so we have taken a deliberate attempt at LASEPA to enforce the Lagos State Environmental Management and Protection Law 2017 and insist on keeping the noise levels low. The goal really is to make sure that everybody in Lagos can live a sane life. You don't necessarily have to pay so much to live in a gated estate before you can get sanity around you. So we have taken the charge to go to churches, clubs, mosques, schools, and everywhere else where we perceive a lot of noise, where people report all of these infractions to us. Okay,
your predecessor was here a number of times talking about especially this noise pollution business. And in fact, she gave her number that if people had noisy churches or mosques and so on, music shops in their areas, they could call her directly and something would be done about it. Do you have any information as to how successful that drive was?
It's important I mention that she's done an amazing job, at LASEPA, and she really did control the noise pollution in Lagos at the time.
Shout out to Dr. Fashawe.
She really did control the noise pollution at the time. But it's also important that we take it a notch higher and begin to enforce it more deliberately this time. So we're going beyond just checking them to actually sealing them for longer periods, making people go by an action plan that is set or that they give to us at the time we're unsealing, and taking the mandatory monitoring more seriously. So when we seal any place, before we unseal you, you have to give us an action plan. You have to give us a work plan over a 3-month period, over a 6-month period, where you have to soundproof your building, or you have to install noise meters, or you have to do several other checks to make sure that the sound doesn't disturb your neighbors. So we are more deliberate with monitoring now and compliance.
How much pushback have you received from your agency, and where are those pushbacks from? I assume you did. Okay.
So you definitely will get a lot of pushback from the religious homes, right? And it's interesting because we all attend different churches around town. There are several, most. There are several of us who attend churches that are totally soundproof, right? And there are so many of them around. I think we would also be deliberate with pushing the information out there that some people are actually doing it right. So what we do, when we get pushback, we engage them more productively. We try to talk to them. We explain what it is to them. Fortunately, we've not had cases where someone insists, I got a call from someone up there to unseal them. No. There's that allowance to do your job. Okay. So with the pushbacks, fine.
That is wonderful news, because we saw the commissioner himself supervising the breaking down of some buildings which were built on drainage channels and all that. The question that came to my mind when I was watching that on TV was, somebody gave approval before these buildings came up. Somebody approved these estates. I mean, whole estates were being pulled down. Somebody approved the building of those houses. So that you tell us now that there's nobody going to call somebody high up there to say, don't do this, don't do that. I mean, how is that going to work out? Because all these people who got approvals for building where they're not supposed to build are people who knew somebody up there.
Well, to the extent that there's documentary evidence of what you have said, I may not be able to confirm, and it's not directly under my remit. However, I can tell you categorically that not once have I gotten a call from either my commissioner, Honorable Tokunbo Wahab, the governor, the deputy governor, or the Speaker of the House of Assembly to unseal any building. And if the calls are not coming from those places, I don't think there's anyone else I report to. So
the calls can't be important.
So I don't think that, to be honest, everybody gets the message. It's clear. Let us restore sanity in Lagos. It's a very bold thing to do. It's a very clear message we have to send to people. We can't continue to grow up in places where we can't breed children in places where they're exposed to so much noise, so much pollution with, generator fumes and all kinds of things in the air. We really need to restore it. We need to return to those days when we're fine.
But Lagos is a big place.
Correct.
And I'm thinking now about the public transport on the road. What kind of training is going on to teach them not to play music on their car honks? That, blaring on your horn permanently is doing damage to your ears, is disturbing people's health, all those kinds of things. I see that as an uphill task. How do you intend to tackle that?
So, looking at the data we have, right, noise pollution from cars is the highest, but it's mostly not in residential areas. A lot of people are more concerned about the noise in their neighborhood, in the residential areas. They want to sleep on a Sunday morning. Particularly, if we are going to dive deeper into the noise at the bus stations and, all over the place, we do a lot of advocacy in those areas as well. We're partnering currently with the Lagos State Parking Permit Authority and the NURTW to do deliberate campaigns at our bus stops to talk to bus drivers. Lagos also does, or LASEPA does, a noise-free day, noise-free week campaign where we make sure that these people are enlightened on the damage they are doing to their health with blaring horns everywhere. So it is really just a lot of advocacy in the commercial space and on the roads. You really may not be able to enforce to the letter, on commercial roads. However, in residential areas, we're very, very keen on making sure people have at least sanity around their homes.
It's interesting that we're trying to pay attention to that. Let me ask you, please. This campaign against noise pollution dates back a very long time.
Correct.
If you can try to track its history, when did it really start? I think I remember even as far back as the Fashola days.
Correct.
When they would go to churches and mosques to pull down their mega horns or
Correct.
whatever it is. So how, if you can remember, and when did it start, and what's been the progress so far?
So it started in the early 2000s. The actual, campaign started in the early 2000s, and it's been consistent. So what has happened so far is that our noise pollution and our general pollution laws have improved. So we revised in 2017. Our pollution laws, because they've gotten better, enforcement has gotten better. And, well, I would say that it depends on, how daring you want to go and the times of the year. At this time of the year, there's a lot of activity, we're getting to close of the year. So there's a lot of activity. You expect that there will be a lot of noise. As per history, at every point in time with successive administrations at LASEPA, they have deliberately stemmed, the tide of noise pollution in Lagos.
What does the data say to that effect?
So the data says that, one, we have identified more causes, and a lot of them have been clamped down to the extent that several areas in Lagos are not allowed to do certain things. You really cannot just match up 5 houses and say you want to form a factory in a residential area, for instance, right? So LASEPA is deliberate about making sure that new noise pollution sources do not spring up in residential areas at the very least, right? And that has progressed. So there's partnership with several other government agencies to make sure that when you're converting a building from residential to commercial, we're able to stop you. You can't just say, I want to convert this building to an event center in the middle of an estate, right? You need approvals on different levels. So when we have to check that, at any point in time when it gets to the building control, they would ask LASEPA, is this appropriate? Is environment approving this? Are you introducing a new pollutant into the environment? If you're not, then you can go ahead. If you will be, then we need to stop that. So we've done that over time, and we have progressed gradually from just chasing after churches to having full control over new kinds of pollution. For instance, shotlets who just open next door and start hosting parties every Friday evening, and then disturb the neighborhood. So we're able to reduce some of these things from time to time and then take charge of the narrative, as we go on.
Now, there are you said that these laws, have been improved over time.
Correct.
I suspect that laws will give birth to regulations.
Correct.
What are these regulations? And how do we put it out? Because I'm not sure many people are aware of some of these noise pollution regulations. So
we have very specific, and exact noise pollution regulations in Lagos, to the extent that we have certain measures or decibels of sound that you cannot exceed in certain areas, right? You expect that your school will be the most quiet, So schools have a threshold of about 35 during the day, and yes, 35 at night as well. Then to residential areas, and then to mixed-use areas, then to commercial areas and industrial. For industrial areas, you expect decibels of up to about 85 during the day and at night. For commercial areas, it's about 80 or 75, So depending on the kind of activity you do or the kind of area you are, there are specific regulations. The numbers are out there, and we push it out as much as we can. I'm sure we've shared it with you before, and then we'll continue to push it out, continue to share with people.
I'm thinking about areas like Ojuelegba and Namdi Azikiwe. Those areas. Those the CD and music business people. How do you intend to control them?
So what's interesting? We actually do clamp down on those people, right? So my predecessor established 20 zonal offices. So it means that you have one office in one local government. And we actually go there, we seize their instruments and keep them in our store until they are willing to turn that speaker into their own shop, which they won't do, right? So we just seize them.
Well, it's the purpose is defeated if I turn it into my shop.
Exactly.
I'm making the noise so that you all can hear me and know that I'm selling CDs and stuff here.
So, for instance, I don't think that business model, that thing where you sell CDs, I don't know how many people still have CD players in their houses. But, whenever we have noise pollution in certain areas like that, our zonal office in that area will go there, and clamp on those equipment. We still do it, I can assure you. I mean, yesterday we visited 3 zonal offices, and the one in Surulere, I know very clearly does it. We're Lekki as well, the entire Ogombo area, and Aja. They seized a lot of them. I opened their store, I saw it.
What about the mobile ones?
So what's interesting?
I don't know if they still do it now, but it was something that we used to see in those days. They carry their thing on their shoulder, their player, and they're carrying their cassettes and stuff. Well, not cassettes anymore, whatever it is that they carry these days. And they're walking around the market playing loud music.
So for markets, you expect a sort of higher permissible sound level, right? However, it is not allowed for you to carry those loudspeakers and, deafen people as you move along. So if you are caught, it will be impounded in a market. Even in a market, if you are caught with those loud musical instruments, you'll be impounded. In Lagos now, I don't think anybody still goes around with cassettes and, those cassette players. I've not seen them in such a long time. I think we've morphed out of that business, as it were. But in every other place, Okokomaiko, Ajangbadi, there's a decent spread of LASEPA operations and activities across Lagos. And we're able to significantly clamp down on noise pollution. We're able to, tell people, do a lot of advocacy with explaining.
What about pollution from cars? How do you deal with that?
You mean emissions?
Yes, emissions.
Fantastic. So emissions are a somewhat different kind of pollution, right? It's also air pollution, but it is a little more poisonous, as it were, right? So it has far-reaching effects, and then, all of the climate change and, pumping of carbon dioxide into the air and all of that. And a lot of our green is eroding. So what we have done deliberately is to first start the advocacy of converting some of our petrol vehicles to CNG. We've modeled some at LASEPA, and we have preached it across Lagos, right? Secondly, there's a lot of noise, or there's a lot of talk around measuring how much carbon you generate from those vehicles. So the campaign has started, to make sure that most of your vehicles are fixed, and then they don't pump out some of those poisonous things. And with the Ministry of Transport, there is a partnership to, at the point of vehicle inspection, if you are pumping too much of carbon out, you will have to fix the problem before you are approved. So there's a Lagos State Vehicle Inspection Service. Okay,
this CNG campaign.
Yes.
Approximately how much will it cost for one to convert a little a small saloon car?
Okay.
So gas.
Well, so on my last check, it was under 150,000 naira to do that conversion. Depending on the sophistication that you want, right? If you...
There are various levels of sophistication.
Yes, obviously. So
please tell us about them. Since you want all of us to convert by what year?
Well, so we said 2025, but we now have to give it more time.
Okay.
If I'm going to be giving numbers, then I would be delving into the commercials of it, and I won't want to advertise any organization.
No. You don't need to give us the name. Tell us approximately how much it'll cost, what levels of sophistication or whatever it is that are available, so that people can begin to put this in their budgeting. Oh, yes.
So the technicalities are that if you are converting an SUV and you want a tank that is, huge enough, you could be doing up to 1 million naira. Or a little more.
Ouch.
Yeah. If you are using a tank that is big enough, and you're converting an SUV to CNG, from petrol to CNG, then you could be doing up to 1 million naira.
About how long does a tank last?
It lasts longer.
Like how many kilometers?
I can't say specifically now, but I can immediately do the numbers right after and then share.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's a noise pollution question from Isolo.
Okay.
How do How do you tackle extreme noise pollution from several churches in residential areas? I'm referring to the Solo area where this is prevalent from OK.
Right, so OK needs to send us an email or call our numbers or send us a message on Twitter or
Okay, I was going to
Facebook.
ask you anyway, how do people complain?
Complain. Okay, so we have several reporting lines or complaint lines, you know, where we get feedback from the public. On Twitter, we're at LASEPA Official. On Facebook, we're at LASEPA Official. The email is info@lasepa.gov.ng. Our phone numbers are
at LASEPA.
Yes, .gov.ng. Our phone numbers are usually on our pages.
Okay, this is your website.
Yes, that's our website.
Okay. So
if you...
Is there a complaint button somewhere on the website?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
There is a complaint button somewhere there.
Okay.
If you click that form, you fill the details of where you're calling from or where you have that problem.
Okay.
We'll get it at the back end immediately.
Okay.
The zonal office in that area.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's your... we're showing how people can get across to you.
Yes.
And drop all this information.
So if you fill it, we get the form on the back end. It goes straight to the zonal office, and they come to you immediately. Or give it 24 hours. Someone is going to come to you. To the person who's complained, they're going to call you. They would get a proper understanding of the complaints. They would visit the complaint sites. We've had people complain about 6 churches on the same streets. You know.
How many of them do you shut down?
I can assure you that we will shut down every single one of them if they don't comply by regulation. So what we do is, when we come, we send you a first abatement notice to say that someone has complained about this noise. You need to reduce it to this level. It has to go below 55 decibels at night because you're hosting vigils. After 1 week, if the person still complains, we send you a pre-sanction notice. If you don't improve, then we come and shut you down. So we don't just go straight to shut you down. Every single place you have seen us shut down has gotten 3 notices.
At least.
At the very
Some
least.
complainants would like to remain anonymous.
Well, yeah, but if you're filling our forms, we cannot really keep you we can keep you anonymous from the offender. Yes.
So here's another one from another source. Says, I live around additional area of Ijesha-Tedo, Surulere. How I wish this man could visit this area, say Friday night down to Monday morning, and see what is called noise pollution. In other words, you don't even know what noise pollution is. So he's saying there are so many mushroom churches in every house. Some of them attend night vigils every night, Monday through Sunday. Thursdays is a whole day. Check it out. That's from Fred.
So Fred, thank you for this feedback. Additional in Ijesha-Tedo in Surulere, right? I'm sure someone is going to pick it up. The Surulere Zonal Office will immediately visit. However, we're going on a campaign to make sure that religious houses and event centers soundproof their buildings within the next 6 months. Wow. Yes, it's going to be a massive campaign in Lagos.
Okay. We've run completely out of time, but I can just take your last word on this. Please talk to the people and tell them what you want them to do and why you want them to do it.
So it's very important that we keep our environment safe. It's very important that we protect other people from the nuisances that we create. It's also important that you are not the reason someone else is moving out of their house, right? Keep your noise level very low. Keep your emissions from your generators and all of those pollutants you release very low. LASEPA is watching. We'll come for you if the complaints continue. Thank you very much.
Dr. Babatunde Ajayi, General Manager of Lagos State Environmental Protection Agency. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much
for coming to create awareness for this. And I hope that we, the residents of Lagos, will begin to comply more, because in the end, it's for our own good.
100%.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Sunrise will return in just a moment with another interesting conversation. Do join us.